Where do I think we're going to go? I think all financial assets will be tokenized over the next 5 to 15 years. I think we're in the first innings of a process that really will reshape how value is transferred and settled and stored. And what does that mean to the regular person? It means financial transactions will be more efficient. And what does that mean? It means, hopefully when you go to apply for a mortgage or a home equity loan, you're going to get lower rates because there's fewer intermediaries taking a little piece out of every time you do a transaction. We buy and sell a share of stock. There's 7 parties in between you and the seller. And when you go to you go to Walmart and you swipe your Amex card, there's 5 parties between you and the merchant. In blockchain, none of those parties really need to exist because blockchain replaces trust with truth, and it allows bi-party, immediate, atomic settlement. And those two things are, they sound sort of esoteric terms, but they are the foundation of the financial system. And if you can solve for those two things, you can reorient the financial system and take out a ton of costs and make it a lot cheaper, faster, and safer for everybody involved.
Well, that's great. I'd like to unpack those two. That was so. The blockchain, it replaces trust with truth.
Yep.
So, and the problem with these sorts of interviews, Anthony, is half of the audience, they're going to be experts in this, and they're going to want to hear what's the latest cutting edge news from Anthony. And then other people, like I say, I don't want them to just feel like, geez, I wish somebody would explain to me what a blockchain is. So why don't we just, for the people that say, oh, it replaces trust with truth. What does that mean? That I can't trust provenance? What are you saying? Obviously, that's not what you mean. So can you unpack that? What do you mean it replaces trust with truth?
So when again, I'll go back to the stock example. If you're a seller of 100 shares of Amazon and I'm a buyer of 100 shares of Amazon, there are literally 7 parties between you and me. You can't just sell me 100 shares and I can't just buy 100 shares. Between you and me, we each have a broker. We each have a settlement system. We have a clearing system in the middle. Each one of those parties takes a small fee. And it takes 2 days for that transaction to settle. You owe me your securities in 2 days. I owe you the money in 2 days. 2 days to settle that transaction. If you think about that, that's an incredible amount of time for something that should be very, very simple. And all the intermediaries exist for a reason. They exist because I don't know who you are, so I don't trust you to deliver the securities when I'm delivering the cash. I don't trust you to give me the Amazon stock when I want to buy the Amazon stock, and you don't trust me to give you the money. So we need all those intermediaries in between, and they all have processes, and they all have things like reconciliation that they need to do before the transaction can be valid. And they don't need to exist in a blockchain world. In a blockchain world, you have 100 Amazon shares, you post them for offer. I have the appropriate amount of money to buy those shares. That money gets ledgered and escrowed. And when we press the button to make that trade, you have a bid, I have an ask. When we atomically meet to make that transaction, blockchain will swap out cash for the securities, and no one else needs to be involved in that transaction. That's the revolutionary potential. It cuts out every one of those 7 counterparties. You go to Walmart and you want to buy, a lawnmower. So you can hear the guys outside right now. If you don't hear them on the podcast, you want to spend $500 on a lawnmower. You swipe your Visa card, and there's 5 parties. I have a bank, you have a bank. Walmart has a bank. The credit card companies are involved. There's 5 parties in that transaction. Each of them takes a small fee, and now you pay 3% for that credit card fee. Everybody hates it, but Walmart doesn't trust you to give them the money when you deserve to give them. They can give them cash, of course, but they don't trust that you're going to swipe your card and pay them. And all that is wrapped up. So if you could then swipe your card and automatically, again, the blockchain will hold the money in escrow, and you can pay it now or you can pay it in 30 days, whatever the terms and conditions are. But Walmart will know that money is coming to them. It's trust versus truth.
Right. And maybe just to use a goofy analogy, because a lot of this stuff, people just take it for granted and it happens behind the scenes. And so they maybe have never thought through. But imagine folks like on, I don't know, Craigslist or Reddit or something, you arrange like, oh, I have shares of Amazon I want to unload. And so I'll meet you, and you meet him in the park. And he comes out with his personal checkbook and writes a check to your name for $20,000. Says, there you go, I'm good for it. And you in turn hold up, some Post-it note that says, 10 shares of Amazon, good for it. And you stamp it with, some firm down the street, Joe Blow Incorporated. And then, gee, I don't trust your personal check and I don't trust that. And then some other guy from the park walks up and says, oh, you both give those things to me and I'll hang on to them for a week and make sure they're legit. And then I'll give them, and obviously none of that works because we don't trust each other. Yep. And that's the function of these big institutions that, well, no, it's at the store. You swipe your debit card and it's they're communicating with the bank that they trust. And so if the bank says, oh yeah, this guy's good for it, it's in his checking account.
Yep.
They trust it, even though, like you said, legally speaking, the bank say so is not as valid as a $20 bill, a green piece of paper. So,
and that's the way it works. It works with cash because you can give them cash. There are security features built into your dollar bill, so they know that it's a valid transaction. They're going to check, but you can't do that. That doesn't really scale. Cash in person doesn't scale.
Right. And so, intuitively, with the blockchain, as you say, because it's a public ledger, that means anybody can inspect it. You're not, when they say it's a trustless system, they're saying it's not that you have to rely on the goodwill or the competence of some big institution. It's just, no, it's up there. There's dozens or hundreds or thousands of independent people running their computers around the world that these things have been verified. And so if that's what the blockchain looks like right now, then this guy's saying, no, I'm the rightful owner of 10 shares of Amazon. You can see that, yep, that's pointing to that. That stuff is really there. It's housed there. And then the smart contracts, it's all, the protocols are all agreed upon ahead of time that when this event happens, then my money transfers to him and the shares transfer to me.
That's it. That's exactly. I mean, it's nothing magical. It's just the next iteration of technology, right? Before credit cards, you had ATM cards, you had cash. I mean, you wrote checks. It's just the next iteration of technology. It's all it really is.
Mm-hmm. So I'm fascinated by your remark there that the trading of equities, you think in this area is still, it's not going to happen next Thursday. Is it purely just because the demand's not there? Because for whatever reason, the public is complacent, or is there other things too behind the scenes that you can just see this is going to take a while?
Yeah. So coming from a big regulated bank, so I began my career at BNY Mellon. Worked there for 20 years. The systems are great bank, great people, horrible technology, trying to fix it. But the process, BNY Mellon touches 25% of the world's investable assets, I think was the last stat that I heard. And their systems are ingrained into everything the financial services industry does. And they're industrial grade. They're always up. They never break. And safety is at the core, right? And that's what you need to think about. The risk is as low as it can be. The safety is as high as it can be. And it's just going to take a while to unwind all that. Plus, and this is important, the banks and the financial services firms have almost no interest in seeing 7 intermediaries turn into no intermediaries because their business is being that intermediary. And they're innovating themselves out of existence. And nobody likes to do that.
That's what I was wondering if part of it was that there's a lot of wealthy institutions that are sitting in the middle of that right now, and they might do various things to try to slow the process while raising perhaps legitimate concerns. Not purely cynical, but saying, well, gee, this system that we got up and running here, it took a long time to build it, and it kind of gets the job done before we just scrap it and go for something new. Can you speak to, just make sure people are understanding the logic to say, 100 years from now, if people are trading shares of corporate stock off of a blockchain, does that mean would there still be like the New York Stock Exchange and then these blockchains would be a layer above that? Or do you understand the distinction I'm making? Or would it just be?
So it's a good question. It depends on how much hand-holding you want. So today on an ATS, you and I can trade a security. If Amazon was listed, for instance, on the Figure ATS, you and I could trade amongst each other and we could self-settle and self-clear, meaning we don't need any other participants. You say you want $100 a share. I'm fine with $100 a share. I give you $100. Transaction is done immediately. Now, for regulatory purposes, it needs to be on a recognized national exchange or an exempt like an ATS. So that will still exist. There'll still be technology that is regulated, and it should be, to create a fair market. Amazon itself will still need to file 10Ks and 10Qs if they still exist, or a version of those, to register with the SEC in order to ensure that they're not taking advantage of investors. But you don't need your broker, right? You don't need DTC. You don't need the clearing firms in between. You don't need custodians. If you're comfortable holding in a wallet, and whatever the version of a wallet is, I'm comfortable doing that. When I place a trade, I don't really think about where. I mean, I do because with the industry, but most people don't think about where it goes and what happens to it, right? So as long as the UI, it's all about UI UX. As long as the UI UX is great, nobody really cares about what happens behind the scenes as long as they know it's safe.
Okay, right.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Murphy. Thanks for listening to this clip from the InFi podcast. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, please consider subscribing and share this video with others. We've got new episodes dropping every Friday with more insightful discussions. Stay tuned.